Hello, my name is Cody Campos, and I'll be doing my persuasive speech today. First, I need to go ahead and introduce my audience, so we'll go around the room. I have Mr. Jonathan Ader, Miss Charisma Collier, Miss Aquiana Waters in the back, Mr. Bertrand, and Miss Benton. We'll go ahead and hand the camera off to my trusty cameraman, Jonathan Ader. You make sure you get that lined up good. All right, that's about it. So we'll go ahead and get started. So today I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about the homeless animal problem here in the United States of America. So we'll go ahead and get started. First, I want to talk about exactly how many animals enter those shelters each year. So DoSomething.org, a web-based community forum for shelter volunteers, posted in their 2015 article, 11 Facts About Animal Homelessness, that 7.6 million companion animals enter United States shelters each year. A companion animal would be a dog, a cat, which represents a majority of that number, and then you have a lot of birds that kind of factor into that number. So when we're talking about shelters, I'd first kind of like to just talk about the two different types of shelters that we have here in the United States. So you have the shelters that euthanize unadopted or unadoptable animals. So typically in shelters like this, what you'll see is if an animal stays in the shelter for long enough and hasn't been adopted, or that animal has some sort of mental or physical distress that allows or that doesn't allow for it to be adopted into a family home, that animal will be euthanized. Now, that's a heart jerker for a lot of us, especially as pet owners, and a lot of people prefer to take their animals or to get animals from what's called a no-kill shelter, which is our second type of shelter. But what a lot of people don't understand is that those no-kill shelters actually have a pretty large negative impact on the communities that they service. And I'll expand a little bit on that. In an article called Animal Shelters, published by PETA, the danger of no-kill shelters are explained. So-called no-kill or turn-away shelters have the luxury of not euthanizing animals because they turn away needy ones whom they deem unadoptable. Many keep waiting lists which compromise animal safety by leaving them in situations which they are clearly unwanted. Where do these unwanted animals go? The lucky ones will be taken to clean, open admission facilities and that have responsible policies about euthanasia and adoption. And as you can see, both methods have pros and cons, but with the waiting list, you leave a lot of animals in the community that aren't being serviced, and they're actually breeding and making more and more animals. So regardless of how you feel about the matter emotionally, the no-kill shelters actually have a larger negative impact on the communities they service in most cases. So next we will move on and talk about why there are so many homeless animals. So just like anything else, there's going to be multiple reasons why we have the problems that we have. But for the homeless animal problem, I really wanted to focus in on the three largest issues we have. And the first one's really simple. It's just that not all animals are spayed and neutered. This is a lot bigger problem for cats than dogs, as a larger portion of cats remain unspayed or neutered. And on top of that, a lot of cat owners have what they call an outside cat. A cat that roams around the neighborhood or in their backyard during the day and is inside at night. Well, these cats often breed with feral cats and add to the feral cat population of communities. So not spaying and neutering your animals is a very large one when it comes to the contribution of animals that are homeless. Then we have people are unaware of what to do with animals they no longer want or can afford. So this is a situation, especially in a lot of lower income neighborhoods, where people don't have the money to afford pets they've acquired, or they're moving, or their landlord tells them they can't have their pet. They're not exactly sure how they need to dispose of this pet. They don't know whether they should give it to a friend or family member, and if no one can take it, a lot of times they just end up abandoning them, and they're left in the homes, and eventually they either die there or they move into the streets and add to the animal homelessness problem that we have here in the United States. And the last one, a lot of people don't think about, but I really want to take the time to talk about because it's one of the bigger ones that we have, is large natural disasters. Displace huge numbers of animals at once, as owners did not have an emergency plan for their animals. So events like Katrina or Sandy displace millions of animals at one time. And it impacts the homeless animal problem in America severely. So And that's just simple people not having plans for when they evacuate. The last thing you think about is, oh, where's my dog or my cat? So unfortunately, a lot of these animals get left. And then when it takes months, sometimes, you know, as we're seeing in Katrina, years to rebuild a lot of these neighborhoods, no one ever comes back for these animals. And unfortunately, they overrun, they get feral, they breed, and the problem just multiplies from there. So now that we've talked about how we handle the problem now and why the problem exists, let's go ahead and talk about how you can fix it. So there's, once again, a myriad of different things you can do to help out, but I kind of want to take the time to focus in on 3 things I believe are the easiest ways to give back and easiest ways to solve this problem. So first, we just have very simply volunteer. There's always going to be a shelter in your local community. They're always going to need volunteers. And what people don't realize is, I mean, simply just walking animals increases the carrying capacity for these volunteer shelters. So by you taking an hour or 2 of your week and going and walking animals, going and cleaning animals, going and help feeding animals, you can make sure that these shelters have room to carry more animals than they would without your help. So you're actually doing a great service to yourself, you know, because it's rewarding to volunteer, as well as these animals that now have a place to live until we can get them adopted. The next one is real simple. Just have your animals fixed. And a lot of times, you know, as I was saying earlier, in low-income neighborhoods, this is very hard to do if you can't afford it. But most people don't realize if you go to your local library or have any internet access, most communities have grants where you can either get it at a very reduced price or free in most cases to have your animals spay or neutered. And then the last one is have a disaster preparedness plan in place for you, your family, and your pet. So Ready.gov is the United States government's disaster preparedness website. And they actually have a plan in place, they have advice to give on how to plan for your pet. So one of the largest things they recommend is to ID your pet. Make sure your pet has tags and those tags are up to date. Make sure those tags are securely fastened to their collar, and if possible, attach the address and number of your evacuation site. If your pet is lost, this is going to be their only ticket home. This is going to be the only way they can find you. They also recommend that you chip your pets so that you can, it's a lot easier to identify the pets because it's pretty standard at this point in time for shelters to have chip readers. Okay, and we'll move on to the next one. So in conclusion, you know, I just wanted to go ahead and say at the bottom line, did it stop recording? Okay. So in conclusion, I just want to say that this is a problem we're all responsible for. We all contribute to the problem either by not helping or by being one of these people that's let a pet go, or even if your pet's ever been lost and it wasn't spay and neuter, that's contributing to the problem. And we're the only ones that are going to be able to fix it. So remember these 3 key facts. Spay and neuter your animals, have a disaster plan ready, and volunteer your time. And a lot of people think that when you're volunteering, you know, you don't have the skill sets necessary. But like I said, sometimes it's just as easy as walking a dog. In a 2017 article written by Kelly Williams called Animals Want You to Volunteer, Leanne Gross is quoted as saying, all I'm looking for in a pet volunteer is someone who's committed and passionate. So if you're committed to animals, if you're passionate about actually helping, get out there and volunteer. There's something you can do to help. And that's all I have for you guys.